And welcome everybody to the PCS Like a Pro show. I am excited for you joining us today, and we've got a good show of a lot of things we're going to talk about with one of my new friends. I'm really excited that she's joining us today from Germany. Before we get into all of that today, just to remind everybody, the customer service satisfaction survey, it plays a big role in how shipments are awarded to different companies for our PCSing. And so previously that survey was on DPS, and you could go into DPS, click the, fill out your survey link, and then fill it out there. If you moved prior to April 29th, you can still do that. If you moved after April 29th, you fall into what they're calling the new survey method. So you'll get an text or email link. You'll get 3 of them after 3 different stages of your PCS. The first one will come after your government counseling session. The second one will come after your packing and pickup day. And then the third one will come about 30 days after your delivery date. So you click the link that comes to you on your phone or computer through either email or text. And there's a few short questions for each one. There's a place where you can put in some comments of more detail about things. And then you'll see with some of those questions too, like there's the smiley face method where you click, like the red smiley face if you're really angry at how the process went for that question, or the green one if you're really happy and had a good experience for it. But just a reminder that, that survey has changed. It is a little bit different now, and to just keep an eye out for those texts and emails coming in for that survey. It's very important that you get those filled out. We're going to go ahead and dive right into today because, like I said, we've got a great show, and we're going to have some good information coming to you. Heba's going to tell us all the things that we need to know about getting involved in our communities. How do we reach out? Who do we reach out to? And getting involvement that way as well. So welcome to the show, Heba. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Megan. And I'm glad that, we've now announced our friendship to the world here. So
yes. If you guys don't know Heba, you're going to learn about her today. If you don't have a Heba in your life, you need to find yourself a Heba. I love the times that we randomly text each other or message each other about all the different things happening PCS-wise and other stuff, and just being able to have that connection. So Heba, can you just take a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So first and foremost, I have the really great and awesome fortune of representing the United States Air Force as the AFI Air Force Spouse of the Year. So really excited to be doing that. Of course, it's the Air Force 75th birthday year. So there's lots to celebrate, lots of things that we've been able to do in the last 75 years of the department, and certainly lots more to do, as Megan can attest to, with regard to quality of life issues and especially PCSing. And so in a past life, I am what we would actually call a recovering congressional staffer. And so that means that a lot of the, questions and comments about PCSing on Facebook really grab my attention. And that means I'm messaging Megan at all hours of the day and night to ask her, what is this? What is going on here? Is this real? What is happening? Help me understand, right? From a military spouse of the year kind of perspective, what are families going through? What are they experiencing? And how do we help them, get connected to you, Megan, right? And your team to make sure that they have the best and most accurate information possible to help them make their PCS go as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We got Paulette joining us here in the comments, Paulette is another one of our good AFI MSOI family. We're not really friends. We're family when you join that community. So thanks for joining us, Paulette. So we're going to dive right in today. So when we first relocate, we often think about getting involved. We want to be involved in something one way or another. And we want to do something to make a difference in our community. What are some of the ways that we can get involved within our communities? We are most likely having some technical difficulties with the connection between Germany and you're here. You were here all along. You just didn't hear everything. So Yeah. So the question I was asking is about, when we relocate, wanting to get involved in our communities. And so what are some of the ways that we can get involved to make a difference in our new communities when we relocate?
Yeah, so not unlike, joining many of the Facebook pages, right, that an installation or that a military community surrounding an installation might have, you know, find organizations that are represented in that local community, right? Does your community have a chamber council or, some other kind of nonprofit that is working with military spouses in the community? And are they looking for either volunteers, or do they have open meetings and open opportunities for you to just go and hear, right? What is the community working on together? What are the opportunities for you to plug in or to get involved in those efforts? Or is there something else, right, that you'd like to get started in a particular community that maybe hasn't actually launched yet? And so that's really one great way of connecting with the local community. And as always, Megan, I'm a big advocate of figuring out who your congressional representatives are. Figure out who is your federally elected representative, district representative, or your two state senators. And every congressional office has those staff that sit in the state and that are responsible for constituent services. So who are those individuals? Connect with them, go visit them, right, in their offices, and ask those questions about, oh, look, I'm a military spouse or a military family member. I just moved to the community. I'd love to stay connected with you to hear about what might be going on, as far as community support for our military families, and I'd like to get involved. So that's always a great way to connect with your new community.
Yeah. And when we say go visit your congressional representatives in their office, we're not saying you have to fly to DC and go visit them there. Like, they don't have just the office in DC. They all have a local office. Either, if they're the senators, like, they have an office in the state somewhere. If they're a congressional district representative, they have an office in that congressional district as well, which is sometimes easier to be able to make appointments to see them or to talk to somebody, rather than always thinking, I have to call DC. We have to go talk to Washington. And that's not always the case or the easiest way to get a hold of them.
Absolutely.
When we think about,
and I was going to just say, like, in those local offices, you actually have caseworkers, right, who can help you if something does go wrong, or if you need access to a resource that you may not otherwise be aware of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when we think about getting involved, a lot of times as a military spouse, we have this idea that if we're going to do something, we really kind of need to go big or go home. But that doesn't always have to be the situation when we get involved with things, right? So what are some of those, like, impactful ways that we can be able to make a difference?
So actually, you kind of mentioned this at the top of your presentation, Megan, which is participate in the surveys, right? Actually reach out and use the means and mechanisms that might be afforded to you, right? To tell the Department of Defense how things are working and why maybe they aren't working the way we're intending for them to. So don't miss those opportunities to engage. And the surveys are a very to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we see that there are surveys for everything. So as we mentioned, there's the customer service satisfaction survey to tell Transcom how your move goes. I'm going to mess it up. Department of Health Services, DHS, I believe, is what manages our healthcare system with TRICARE. Like, they always send out surveys repeatedly wanting to know, like, how is your experience at the MTF, or how is this, or giving feedback on some sort of program. So there's always a survey of some sort that you can fill out to be able to let your voice be heard. And additionally, there's those surveys from, Blue Star Families, Military Family Advisory Network, and other ones that, they take the results of those survey and they take the responses and they go to Washington, they go to the Hill, and they help advocate on behalf of our military community as a whole, as to, this is what our families are saying, this is what needs to be done. So surveys, why we think might be a check the block type of thing, or why we think might be like a waste of time because who's going to read this, that data actually does a lot to kind of change and play a role in what happens and what those changes are for us.
Well, and it also ensures, right? I mean, Facebook is not a survey tool. as frustrating, right, as some things are, and it's easy to go to Facebook, right, and it's easy to go and do that stuff, but if you really want the department to hear your feedback, those surveys are the best means of providing that feedback directly. And it also ensures that the department is getting data that can help inform, right, future programming or future initiatives that the department might undertake. And so we can't fix what we don't understand, and your feedback and that data really does help the department and the respective, right, combatant commands and MAG comms within it to understand what those challenges are and what military families are experiencing, so they can ensure that those programs are working to serve the needs of military families in whatever situation they might be in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So whether it's PCSing, employment, healthcare, I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things, childcare, pick one of them. There comes a time when we feel like the best thing that we need to do when we're faced with an issue or a concern is that we need to reach out to somebody above us, that more adulty adults sometimes that we feel like we're looking for. And usually, and a lot of times, it's one of our elected officials of some sort. So when we are faced with an issue and we feel like we need to, reach out to those elected officials, what is the best way to kind of start this? Do we start locally with maybe like our city council, depending on what the issue is, or should we go straight to our congressional representatives? What's your advice on that type of approach?
Yeah, so that's absolutely a great question. And there are some issues in some instances where going to, your local constituent services representative, right, that works for your elected official is the best path. An instance that I can think of in that case is if you are moving OCONUS, right, you're moving overseas and you need passports and your passports are delayed, your congressional delegation, those offices, those representatives are absolutely in a position to support you by asking for a status check, right, or a status update on your passports. That's just one very, limited but incredibly real example, and congressional offices do that all the time. Another reason that, or another way that you can reach out to, your local community if there is an issue that arises, think about something like education. Right, you're moving to a new state. Okay, you have all of these, you might have an education challenge, maybe getting your children enrolled in school, or understanding, if the state has a policy of school choice, for example. Colorado does. And so that was, advanced enrollment is a big issue, right, for the state of Colorado. And they do that to try to help incoming military families ensure that they get the same opportunities, right, to go to schools in the districts that they might be living in. And so in that sense, it wouldn't really make sense to go to your federally elected officials necessarily. It might make more sense to go to the school liaison office on base, right, and get them to help you because they have those relationships and connections. So I'm all about working smarter, not harder. And sometimes, Congress doesn't have the means of actually facilitating the change that a military family might want. And sometimes it's not a matter of federal policy, right, or a federal department or agency. It's just a matter of connecting to a local resource that can help you, right, get pointed in the right direction. And the school liaison office is a perfect example of when, if you have trouble, right, connecting to your new school districts or an education enrollment issue, go to those school liaison offices, and they are the belly button, right, for all of that entire network and that entire community when it comes to education. Oh, you're muted, Megan. Or I might have a technical difficulty.
No,
there you are.
It was totally me. We love it. It's a love-hate relationship with technology, as we've been working through today. With all the technical stuff. My dog was trying to chew on something, and so I muted and went off camera to go give her bone, and then came back and totally forgot what in the world was happening. So some really great advice there. And one of the things that you mentioned at the very beginning with your background is that you have experience with the congressional side of things. So can you walk us through on like how issues are handled on that side? Because sometimes we feel like, we talk to somebody and okay, we told the staffer our issue, but like, are they really going to take it for action? Are they going to go tell somebody? Are they just making the note to appease us because we needed somebody to hear our complaint? So on your side, on that previous life of yours working the congressional offices, how does that work when I call and say, this is the issue we have, I need you to hear this? What then happens with it?
So again, another great question. First, before you reach out to your congressional office, please, 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 please have an idea of what it is you're asking them to do, right? If you're calling just to let them know there's an issue, that's certainly one thing. But if you're calling and you are expecting them to do something on your behalf, let them know, hey, I don't know if you have the means to do this, but could you reach out to DFAS and figure out where my reimbursement is? Could you reach out to the State Department, figure out where my passport is? Could you reach out, if that's what you're wanting, right? So have a good sense of what it is that you would like that congressional office to do on your behalf. And they'll let you know whether or not that's something they're able to do within their capacity, right? That's first. Secondly, if there's an issue or a situation where you are specifically having a challenge, right, during a PCS or what, like some of the nightmare stories that I know we are seeing on Facebook, I'm just like horrified every time I scroll through there. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this moment. But something that would be really helpful to staff when you reach out to a congressional office and you are in a dire situation, right? Your truck has been stolen, you've been robbed, all of those kinds of things. It would be great to have something like an MFR or a memorandum for record, right? A timeline of here's when, we engaged the department. Here's when we asked for help. Here's what we were told by this office. Here's where everything went sideways. Here's what we've done so far. Here's who we're already connected to. And that helps because it keeps a congressional office or multiple congressional offices from making multiple inquiries on your behalf. And that's super, super important because it slows everything down. I know it can seem like, the best possible idea to reach out to every single person you might know, but actually in those instances and in those situations, that might not be the most helpful thing for you to do in that moment, especially if it's an urgent or an immediate need. So really just kind of take some time to be like, okay, what am I actually asking this congressional office to do? What information can I provide them so they have, background, right, or context to what and why I'm asking, for their help. And then, really do try to be as considerate, I think maybe is the best word, about not reaching out to numerous congressional offices at one time, because that means, multiple people will be reaching out, and that can actually really slow it down. And also, last but not least, be prepared to sign a privacy authorization release form. Congressional offices do not have the authority to reach out on any individual's behalf without that particular form being signed. So be prepared to share that information. Be prepared to offer them contact information so that they can turn around, right, and engage the department on your behalf. And that document is you giving them permission to do that or to request, right, information for you. So be sure to be prepared for that. And the sooner you get that back to the congressional office, the sooner they can turn right around and engage the department and ask what's going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some great information and tips in there. My big thing that I always tell people is have, if you're coming to the table with a problem, also come with a solution. It may not be the best solution. It may not be the right solution, but it's at least an idea of like, hey, we could do this to help fix it. But definitely great tips about not reaching out to every office in the world. Sometimes we feel like, again, that go big or go home, like let's, just crop dust everything at once and cover all bases at once. If you guys missed it a couple weeks ago, we had Sarah Strader on here and we talked about, voting and figuring out where you vote at, figuring out who your congressional representatives are that you reach out to. We'll link that in the comments because I think that could be some great information to pair with this about, again, who do we reach out to? Because we live such a nomadic lifestyle. And Sarah did a great job walking us through figuring out who it is we're supposed to contact. But, that point of, contact one, give them the opportunity to handle it before contacting another one. Because I can tell you from the DoD side, when you file a congressional and it goes to that office, everything has to stop and they have to go through that congressional process of answering it. And it has to go through their channels of being sent back up. And so if you send, 3 or 4 congressionals over the same issue, they have to stop and answer every single congressional issue. And it's not necessarily a cut and paste type of thing. They have to all go through the same process and show that they've did the same process for all of them.
Well, and Megan too, just before we, leave that point, Also ask for a response, right? Like if you want a reply, ask for that reply and that response from the office. Just, don't forget that, okay, well, if I want them to, they get hundreds of phone calls a day, they get thousands of emails a week, right? So getting through those emails and as staff, you're reading it. And if it doesn't say, oh, I would like a response to my inquiry or to my request, or please contact me, I'd like to, connect with a caseworker to resolve my issue. Let them know if it's immediate and urgent, right? And for what reason. And more often than not, right, if a team has a great constituent services initiative underway and a good effort, you'll find a staffer calling you and asking for more information and what they can do to help you. So don't forget to ask for a response if you want one.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. And that follow-up can really be, sometimes we think like, no, I don't need a follow-up. Like, you have the issue, you have whatever, like you can handle it. But I tell you that those follow-ups, I've seen some really great things come from those follow-ups, and some other issues identified that that congressional office is able to say, hey, we can address those issues too. Let us, we didn't know about those, but this is all connected. Let us help out here. So definitely take those follow-ups, definitely ask for them. What else do we need to know about that we haven't already mentioned or talked about, or something that maybe you just want to reiterate for our audience again?
Well, I just, all that I would want to say is, one, don't miss opportunities, right, to engage on these issues. If you really care about it and it's really important to you, right, or you've just had an experience, don't miss that. Like, I know it's really difficult. You're in the moment, right? You're just trying to survive, the PCS or survive the situation and the circumstance. So it can seem kind of like a back burner issue, like, oh, I'll take care of it later. But again, all of that information, all that feedback, both to Congress and to the department, can be extremely helpful, Megan, just like you said about maybe a staffer reads a note that you wrote and it's like, I don't necessarily need an inquiry, but please let me know if I can be helpful, right? If Congress ever considers some kind of policy or program that would help address this issue. And I know that as a staffer, hundreds of times, right, you would call people and say, thank you so much for writing in and sharing this, recommended action with us. Could you tell me I want to hear the whole story from start to finish about what happened. And you never know when that might spark, legislative or policy change within the department or, at the federal level there in Congress. So don't ever underestimate what those experiences and what that feedback can really do to help inform decision-making and decision makers. And you absolutely play a role in that, right? So there's no better time than as an actively, right, serving, moving, whatever military family, to make sure that your elected officials and those policymakers and decision makers have as much information at their disposal, right, when they're supporting programming and initiatives that ultimately are going to impact each and every one of us, right, whether it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years, wherever you might be in the world or stateside and whatever you might be doing or wherever you might be moving to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're going to shift gears here just a little bit for the last two questions I've got for you, because these are the two questions I love to ask every military spouse that I have on the show. The first one is, what has been your favorite duty station that you've been at, and why was it your favorite?
Okay. This is the staffer side of me coming out. I'm going to get to pick one CONUS and one OCONUS.
Totally works. We'll take it.
See, that's like a loophole, right? I feel like, so yeah, stateside favorite duty station was Peterson Air Force Base, now Peterson Schriever Garrison, the United States Air Force Academy. Super awesome community there in Colorado Springs. We loved being in Colorado Springs. And similarly, Ramstein Air Base, Germany. Couldn't be more excited to be at Ramstein. This community is so different because you are getting to see up close and personal what our military does every single day, day in and day out, on behalf of our national security. So they're two totally different assignments, but yes, my stateside assignment is definitely Colorado Springs and the Air Force Academy, and my OCONUS assignment is Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
No, I will totally allow that. No, I love, and for two totally different reasons why you love each one too. A lot of times we hear, it's a great location, there's a lot of family to do, or, there's been really great people. But two totally different reasons for two totally different bases. And I love hearing that, because that's one of the things that we talk about a lot too when we hear about the groups, and people say, what's your favorite? Where have you been? A lot of it depends on your season of life, and a lot of it depends on like what else are you into, and what is your spouse's position? Like, are they going to be in a high up tempo area and gone a lot, or are they going to be a lot of good family time? And so I always tell people to understand, like, one reason why they may like it may not be the same reason why you like it. And vice versa with maybe not liking it too, is being able to have that open mind. We got Paulette saying here that her son was recently at Ramstein as well. Again, it's a big world, but such a small community.
It is.
And then the last question I want to ask you is a piece of advice that you would want to pass on to other military spouses.
Use your network. And I don't necessarily mean like your, elected or political network, but I actually mean like your military spouse network. Like, Megan, you're a military spouse. Like, I think you were like doing this show. I forget, was it from your closet or something, like while you were moving, or your pantry? Or
yeah. Yeah.
So like, military spouses are super resourceful, one, and two, I'm not a betting person, but I can pretty much bet that if you're experiencing something, there's some military spouse out there in the world who has also been through what you are going through and can probably be really helpful, right, to you, getting you information. And I cannot say how much I appreciate, again, what you do, Megan, day in and day out, you and your team, making sure that everyone has the latest and greatest, right, information about what the department's doing, what rules and regulations have changed, what you need to know for your, upcoming PCS. And I'm like already adding stuff to my Amazon cart, right? Like, we're still 2 years out, and I'm like, I need these labels, I need these inventory sheets, I need all this stuff. So I think my best advice is really, don't reinvent the wheel. Use your network, reach out, right? Join the Facebook page, go and research and keep an eye out, right? So that you're best prepared, again, to do what's going to serve your family well. So there are definitely resources out there, and reach out to your network. And Megan, I will be bugging you a ton here in about a year and a half. So prepare yourself for that conversation.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think that's some great advice too. Using our network is that when you ask a question, you'll be surprised a lot of times of who, one of your friends knows somebody that they can connect you with to be able to help handle whatever it is. As you see here, we've got Heba, a former congressional staffer here, that's able to give us the lowdown of how it works on both sides of that fence, and how, behind the scenes that we may not get to see. Next week, we're going to have Brian Alvarado on here talking about hiring our heroes in spouse employment. And knowing that we have other military spouses that are going through the same things that we experience and the same things that we do. And they've been there, they've done that, they've figured out the solution, they have a resource, and they have a way to help get things handled. So yeah, definitely use our network. You'll be surprised, who is in it, who has a connection to something, to be able to say, hey, I know somebody, let me connect you and hand you off. It's like we said before, it's a big world out there, but we are such a small community that I think, if we were to ask, every need that we could ever think of could probably be met within our community.
Absolutely. No, it's just such great advice. I mean, I know now for all of my PCS needs, you're going to find me in your Facebook Messenger inbox. So
yes, no, definitely come. I will help you. We will take care of you. The regulations will most likely have changed by then, but we will have them, and we will guide you through everything that will be happening at that then. Heba, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us today, and coming, to join us time zones away from Germany.
yeah, thanks so much for having me. Thank you to all of you. Good luck to everyone as we round out hopefully what is the end to the crazy PCS season this year. And just thanks again for having me, Megan. And if I can ever be of help to any of our either fellow viewers out there, right, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. And I'd be more than glad. If I can't help, I might know someone who can.
Yes, absolutely. If you guys, you can't reach out to Heba directly for whatever reason, connection issues, or you forget, message the page and we will get emails and connect y'all together to be able to get stuff done and to handle things as needed. Thank you, everybody, for watching and joining us today. We're excited that you are here with us. If you're in the middle of your PCS, preparing for one, or it's wrapping up, we are fingers crossed hoping that it was a smooth move for you. If you've got questions, issues, please don't hesitate to ask either through my page or in our PCS group as well. Be sure to join us again next time, same place. We're going to be talking, as I mentioned before, with Brian Alvarado from Hiring Our Heroes, talking about spouse employment and how you can help navigate that through your next PCS. So until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you then.